In Clash Royale, there are 6 different types of decks. The first type is Cycle, which is a low elixir deck built around cycling back to the same card. For example, the notorious 2.6 Hog Rider deck. The goal of this deck is to constantly cycle to your Hog Rider so your opponent doesn't have a counter. These decks rely on constant pressure, good placements, and cheap defense. The second type are bait decks, which are also low elixir decks built around baiting one of your opponent's cards. Usually, bait decks will consist of a lot of weak low elixir cards in order to bait an enemy spell like the Log. Once you've baited that spell, you use your other cards to punish the opponent since they no longer have a counter. The third type is beatdown, which are strong decks with a tank that focus on building 1 or 2 big pushes. Beatdown decks tend to ignore a lot of attacks to save your elixir for your big push. These decks thrive in double elixir, are relatively easy to understand, but can sometimes have tough times against cheap decks. Number 4 on the list are control decks that rely on good defense and chip damage. These decks usually consist of low-risk attacks, building counter pushes, and focus on positive elixir trades. Control decks are not easy decks to use, as one mistake can cost you a lot of damage. The 5th type of deck in Clash Royale are siege decks, which are built around a building like the Expo or Mortar to deal chip damage from a distance. The main goal is to get your building to lock onto a tower, then defend it like your life depends on it. These decks usually have very good defense, but can also be very predictable at times. Finally, the last type of deck in Clash Royale is bridge spam, which is exactly what it sounds like. These decks rely on spamming quick cards at the bridge like the Bandit or Ram Rider to chip away at the enemy towers. These decks are good for surprising your opponent with quick attacks, but requires quick responses and careful defense.